Welcome back into the Red Shirts Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Next up here with our rookie scouting profile series, KJ Hamler, wide receiver out of Penn State. And this is a guy who, honestly, we're going to talk a lot about his explosiveness as a player, his explosiveness down the field, his speed, etc. But let's start with kind of how his college career got off to start as a freshman. Unfortunately, he had to redshirt his freshman year because of an ACL injury. So we didn't see KJ do anything a couple of years ago. He's only had 2 years of production at Penn State coming off of that injury. And in those 2 years, as I said, this guy is someone who profiles as a speedster. Now, unfortunately, because of a mild hamstring injury while training, he was not able to participate at the NFL Combine. So we did not get to see him run the 40-yard dash. And honestly, I think that would have been his best test of the day, and probably would have put in a sub 4.4 speed, and that really would have probably helped his draft stock. Obviously, we know the NFL loves speed, but I was reading an interesting article on NFL.com talking about KJ's current training plan and how he's basically using GPS data to try to track his speed and to be able to showcase this to NFL scouts, to GMs, and that kind of thing. And regardless, one thing is for sure, even when you watch on tape, this guy oozes with speed, which we'll get to in a second. But before we do, let's check in on his measurables. So at the Combine, he weighed in at 5'9", 178 pounds. So obviously a bit undersized for today's NFL, and definitely not, your typical wide receiver one, so to speak, in terms of size. He's not that 6'2", 220 type of receiver. He's a smaller guy, and he's more of a slot receiver who wins with speed and quickness rather than size and the ability to go up and catch the football with length. So that's not his game by any means, but let's talk about his production on the field before we break down the game tape. In 2019, KJ Hamler really showed the ability to get downfield and explode for big plays. In his first season at Penn State, he averaged 18 yards per reception, and just last year, averaged over 16 yards per reception. So I think that speaks to his ability to get downfield. He caught 56 balls for almost 1,000 yards, 8 receiving touchdowns. And for KJ, the receptions are probably not as high as we would like to see for someone to go out and truly dominate at the college level. But when you watch Penn State football, there are ways that they get him the ball in space. Jet sweeps, screens, etc. And I think for a guy like KJ Hamler, who relies so much on his speed and quickness, that is something that I think we'll see a lot of at the next level. Something similar to the way the Niners use Deebo Samuel. They manufacture ways to get him touches, manufacture ways to get him the ball in space. And for KJ Hamler, I think that's what it's going to take for him to succeed at the next level. Now let's talk about a couple of his strengths and weaknesses that we see on tape. I already alluded to it with KJ Hamler. It's all about speed for this guy. This guy can get downfield. He is explosive with the ball in his hands. I think his best attribute, aside from the pure quickness and speed that he has, is his run after the catch ability. I think at the next level in today's NFL, where you don't need to necessarily be that big body type to win, I think he sets up well that if he gets involved with a creative offensive mind as a coach and as a coordinator, they're going to figure out ways to get him the ball on screens and jet sweeps and that kind of thing. And getting the ball in his hands is something that is going to be very beneficial for an NFL offense because of how elusive, how electric he is with the ball. As far as his weaknesses, he definitely had a couple of drops on tape last year. Something that I think is a knock on maybe his size, especially those drops came in traffic where the defensive back is right on him, the safety's closing down, those sorts of things. So that's not really where he's going to win. I don't think he's going to win with those jump ball type of situations. He also ran a little bit of a limited route tree at Penn State. Like I said, they got him involved in gadget type of ways. And a lot of times he was catching the ball deep downfield. So I would like to see him clean up his more nuanced route running skills to create separation at the next level. I'm not sure his size profiles as someone who can really get off the line of scrimmage against press coverage as well as other wide receivers in this class. But he's quick, he's shifty, he's tough to bring down when he gets the ball in his hands. And for fantasy, I think if he lands in the right offense, he could be, a flex or a wide receiver 3 type of player on any given week. However, his biggest comp for me right now is that of Deshaun Jackson or maybe even a Tavon Austin. And obviously those two players, while they've had fantasy success, are certainly not very reliable options in our lineup. And so, for KJ Hamler, he's going to have some good weeks for us in fantasy, but I don't think he profiles as a true wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1 in your lineup week in and week out when he gets to the NFL level. As far as the NFL draft is concerned, he's profiling as a round 3 or round 4 type of prospect. So hopefully he gets better draft capital than that. Obviously, that helps give us confidence in our dynasty leagues. But in dynasty rookie drafts, I think KJ Hamler is a guy at the back end of round 2, early round 3, who is a high upside prospect. And like I said before, if he finds himself in the right situation with a coach who can get the ball in his hands, he is going to make plays. He is going to be electric. All right, everybody, that does it for this rookie scouting profile. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button on this video, and comment your thoughts below. And look for us anywhere you can find your podcasts, any podcast app. Follow us on social media at RedShirtsFFPod.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Red Shirts Fantasy Football Podcast. Hit us up on Twitter at RedShirtsFFPod and check out our website, RedShirtsFantasyFootball.com.